You may be wondering what I'm doing here attempting to grab a Rukiryaxe, and you may also be wondering what this timer is at the top left of my screen. Well, it all started a few weeks ago. I was randomly going around on Twitch and I saw this stream of someone doing a speedrun. At first I thought it was just for fun, but when Skyblaze posted this message, I found out that there actually is an official speedrun.com site. Being me, I thought I might as well try it out for myself. Here's how my run went. I spawned into the world and immediately looked for a cherry tree by a plot of land. I saw one and I decided this would be a good spawn. From there I overrid my last speedrunning slot and walked into Wood R Us, starting the timer. The start of the run is pretty normal for a speedrun. I grabbed the axe, put it on the counter, and talked to Thom. I almost clicked the wrong button here, but I luckily saved it. From there, I decided to chop down this tree over here. This tree I knew would be big enough to get me at least $100 so I could buy a plot of land. What I'm doing here is called the proc glitch, and what it is the second that I hit and the hit registers, I unselect my axe, which effectively cancels the cooldown, meaning that I basically get an infinite combo. Now this didn't help too much and only saved a few seconds in the long run. Anyways, once I finished chopping down the tree, I took it over to the wood drop off to sell it. I sold it pretty fast, with only a little bit of excess spillage, and from there I jumped all the way over to the land store. I entered the land store and talked to Reuven. Then I bought the piece of land with the cherry tree right next to it, which is right here. From there I reset instantly, which put me right back at my base. I took my save sign out of the ground and I went over to sell it, because if you didn't know, selling your save sign gives you a lot of money. Once I got the money, I used this passageway to buy a steel axe. I also bought this shabby sawmill. I placed the shabby sawmill over at my base and hopped back to my base. I could have saved a lot of time if I had reloaded, but I decided not to. Anyways, from there I chopped down this cherry tree that is next to my base. The reason I'm chopping this tree is to get enough money for a car. I maxed out my sawmill and quickly put the cherry wood into the sawmill. From there I used my second glitch, which is the speed glitch. This footage is not sped up. All you have to do is take the wood and grab it with your mouse and it will speed you forward. Anyways, once I finished that, I sold the piece of wood, and this is where I lost a lot of time. As you see, I only need $17 more, which means the piece of wood wasn't big enough. So I had to come to this oak tree and cut a piece off. This added an additional 15 seconds onto my speed run. Time that should definitely be cut in future run. Anyways, from there I used this cut through again, and I bought the truck for $400. I placed it at my base and walked back. Again, I could have saved a lot of time if I reloaded, but I decided not to for this run as I used some other glitches later on and wanted to balance it out. Anyways, from there I milled all of the cherry tree in hopes to get $600. The reason I need this money was to buy 2 pieces of TNT from Bob's shack and to lower the bridge. I cut all the cherry wood and milled it pretty quickly using the eMove B sawmill glitch. Once I finished milling all of the big cherry pieces, I put them all into my truck and drove back to the wood drop-off, selling them all pretty fast. From there, I made my way over to Bob's shack by going and lowering the bridge, and then riding over it. The route I took to Bob's shack was going left of this rock. I don't know if going left or right saves more time, so I just went left because I thought it was faster. From there, I grabbed 2 pieces of dynamite, bought them, threw them in my truck, missed one throw, and got back to the Taiga. Once I was near the taiga, I unboxed one of my TNT and placed it behind a rock. From there I detonated it and stepped back. This is when I made my biggest mistake. As you see, I grabbed my TNT to try to move it closer to me when a boulder smacked into my car, sending the TNT flying over this hill. This wasted about 15 seconds of my run, which means that in total saving time, we would have about a minute by now. Anyways, from there I made my way back into the taiga, and on the way through, I tossed out this TNT as I would be needing it later once I collected my ice wood. Ice wood is the most popular way to get money in these speedruns. There's also the gold wood strategy, which I do not like doing because you either need to wall glitch all the way up or long plank, which I do not like. Anyways, this road here is the second most time consuming part of the run, as you're just driving and there's pretty much no way to mess up, it's just a consumption of time. From there, I parked my truck over here and took out my axe to wall climb. Now Skyblaze, who is the speedrunner.com verifier of this category, said that glitches were allowed except for the fly with glass pane glitch, so I assume this glitch is allowed. If not, then I told him that he could add a minute or two onto my run. It would still be the world record, even if I got some time added. Anyways, I continued wall climbing all the way up this rock until I got to the icewood area. Once I got into the icewood area, I was on the lookout for two big trees. These trees had to be pretty beefy as I would need to earn a lot of money from them. Luckily, I had two trees right here next to each other. Now this next part of the run is the most consuming part. This is chopping and processing all of the trees. This took a good 10 minutes just to chop up all of the wood and get it back to my base. Again, there's not much failure here, it's just about what to do to cut off the most time from my run. In terms of log thickness, I decide that any log that's visible from above the snow would go in my truck. This means when the logs are on the ground, if I can still see them, then I'll take them. If I cannot see them, aka they're hidden under the transparent snow, then I will not get them. This proved to work out pretty successfully, and I did have a little bit of money left over at the end of the speedrun, so in future runs to save off more time, I should focus on cutting a little bit less up. But I like to be safe rather than be sorry. Anyways, from there, I went in my truck and it had a little glitch, but that didn't waste too much time. I lost one piece right here, which I didn't really care about since it was tiny, but besides that, I had a pretty nice downhill ascend. I lost one more piece here, but after that, I was all good. And anyways, they were tiny pieces and I had enough money, so there wasn't really a point in going back for them, and I knew that at this point in the run, if I want to get a world record, I couldn't stop. Anyways, from there I made my way back through the taiga over to the rocks, which had respawned just like I predicted. And I took my TNT that I left here from earlier and placed it in between some rocks, lit it, and stepped back. Now these boulders would be gone for another 10 minutes, which should give me time to go back and craft the axe without buying more TNT, which would save me some money. Anyways, now it's time to mill my wood. And this part is also pretty time consuming, but there is really no way you can mess up. I decided to respawn my truck and dump the wood into my truck, that way it won't slide everywhere. Anyways, once I milled all of my ice wood, I shoved it all into my truck and took off for the wood drop off. At this point, I realized that if this earned me enough money, this could possibly be a world record, also floating tree. Anyways, from there I went off to the wood drop-off and sold all of it. I was super surprised by how much money you really earn from ice wood selling, as I hadn't really sold it in a few years, and since then the price has been buffed by quite substantially. Now I was in the final segment of the run. I had all the money I needed, and I had a good start. All I needed now is to pull this last buying spree off, and I would get the world record. To start off, I lowered the bridge for 100 money and then continued hugging the wall all the way to fancy furnishings where the light bulb is located. Once there, I walked to the back of the store where the light bulb is, and I swiftly took it and put it on the counter. From there, I took this back route, making sure to hug the wall and turn slowly all the way to Bob's shack where I bought the can of worms. Now all I needed was the sand bag, and I could buy this from Wood R Us. I headed back again, hugging the wall and taking the route I took first. I entered into Wood R Us, picked up the bag, and bought it. At this point, I knew that this would definitely be a world record run, as long as I could do the rest successfully without messing up too bad. I hurried through here and hugged the wall as I went. Like I expected, the boulders were still down. Here I started to mess up a little bit. When I placed all the items, they all went behind the hatch and I had some issues getting them in. Once in, this was a piece of cake, however. All I had to do was put the items in their respective order, and there we go. There was one last curveball that was thrown at me around here. See, I didn't realize at the time, but you have to click the Rukiryaxe before you can actually pick it up. So I wasted a good 15 seconds spamming E on it before I accidentally clicked it, and then it worked. And there we go, speedrun complete.